Hello, and welcome to Technically Speaking, where scientists and engineers come together to chat about a common interest, share knowledge, and satisfy some curiosity. I'm Antonia, and in this episode, I'm joined by Ellie and Emma to talk about the nature of altruism and where we see it in the animal kingdom. So, Ellie, given your background is in zoology, you must have learnt a bit about some altruism in nature.
Yeah, 100%. I think I'd like to see it in action. I don't know if I've ever actually witnessed it myself, but one of the famous examples that they teach at university is the old meerkats. So you
Oh,
often see altruism in groups of related individuals. And the classic one is the meerkats who, everybody's foraging, having a good time, and then there's one little guy stood on a rock, um, looking around, keeping an eye on what's happening. And then if a predator comes, he's the one being like, guys, go in the burrow, hide, which is obviously a risk to himself. And he's protecting all of his family and friends. So I just think that's cute, and I love a meerkat. And I would like to go to the Kalahari and lie on a thing and watch them with binoculars. Or, I mean,
oh.
to be fair, they're pretty friendly, so they'd probably just climb all over you.
Yeah, I think I've seen meerkats at Chester Zoo. Were they not
Yes.
exhibiting that behaviour there, or do you think we're not too scary that they're not worried about us?
Well, I think they normally do it for like big birds of prey and snakes and stuff. So at Chester Zoo, obviously, that's kind of less of a risk. Though, to be fair, probably buzzards fly across. So yeah, they're probably not that scared of much stuff. But I think they do still do it in the fact that one will stand guard. They just don't have anything to guard against.
So, Emma, you're studying for a PhD in biophysics and interact with medicine. So, I imagine you might also have some views on altruism.
Why, yes. Although my views I think come more like personally, in rather than like more work oriented, because I do a lot. All my lab work is kind of just like in vitro, like there's never any animals or any cells involved, even so, like I don't even think about them as real things, and so can't think of that I'm helping them out or anything like that. But I actually kind of had some comments on this topic, especially because I remember seeing a video clip of Jesse Eisenberg, the actor, when he was doing some press for a film. And he was basically saying that he got the quote unquote blood donor bug and then decided to altruistically donate his kidney. So just donate it to a stranger. And I just thought it was really interesting part of like the human psyche of, would literally give up an organ to a stranger. And then I think it's quite interesting to view that from an animal perspective. Obviously, medically they're limited; they can't perform these surgeries and do that. But it's just interesting to think, do they have things that they can do that is, almost the equivalent of that, or is that just an entirely human nature thing? So I didn't even know about the meerkat, so pretty excited to get into that a little bit more as well.
Cool. Well, yeah, let's start with animals because humans, there's all sorts of different things that we could talk about with humans. But animals, I guess we can kind of study them without their thinking process. Like the colony of ants that we saw in an article that sends some sort of infection signal. Well, more like I'm infected signal.
I mean, that is pretty remarkable that they can do that. Ants are pretty cool anyway, and they are, like I said before, one of those social animals living and working all together in a big colony. So I think this like infection signal is for the greater good, right? So if you're a poorly ant with this infection that potentially could infect others, or at least that that you're a risk, to send this signal to be like, guys, I'm sorry, I've got to, sacrifice myself, come and kill me, essentially, is like absolutely nuts that a tiny little insect is capable of that. And like
Yeah,
that act of, I guess, selflessness.
yeah. I mean, that is quite a thing to say, isn't it? That seems pretty altruistic to me. And how exactly do they say it? Because for us, communication is with words.
I always thought, was it classic pheromone? And like a releasing an odor, basically. Because ants love love a good smell. So
Mm.
they just signal their impending like death and the fact that they're infected by releasing like an odor signal. And then all their, well, probably not all their friends, but one or two will come and have a look and see what's happening. And then, yeah.
Do you know what that reminds me of a little bit? And I think this is true, but Ellie, maybe you know better. When is it when bees find a new home, they do a little dance to signal that it's safe and that other bees can come and kind of land there, or something like that. But I guess, is that technically altruistic because it's kind of also beneficial for them? Like, is it a truly selfless act? Whereas the ants is definitely, it's a suicide act, essentially.
Yeah, this
So-
is where people get hung up on this idea of altruism, is that it's sort of supposed to be negative. You are supposed to benefit the group by doing something that doesn't benefit you, which doesn't always happen, I will say. It's like this idea of a selfless act. Can you benefit the group without benefiting yourself? Is a kind of, well, it becomes philosophy at that point.
But in this case, if they're, kind of saying, look, it's time for me to go, is that not selfless?
I think it's pretty selfless, because if they didn't say that, then presumably the infection would spread, right? All of the ants would die. So this seems like you're risking yourself, you're sacrificing yourself for the good of the colony, which is probably the most selfless thing you could do. So I say the ants win. Or at least pass the altruism test.
Yeah. And what I thought was interesting from the article was the way that they tested that it wasn't just a byproduct of them getting ill, was they had a infected ant with a worker ant in one place and then an infected one on its own, and they only produced that signal when there was another ant present.
Oh, I see. So it's not just the smell of the fact that they're infected in the first place.
Yeah.
It's an actual, it's a maybe not a conscious choice, but it's another thing on top of that. Wow, that's cool.
But here's my other thought, is they mention in that paper that the worker bees don't actually breed and pass on their genes. So the only way their lineage continues is if the rest of the colony continues.
Oh, now we're getting into bee dynamics. Are they all clones, though? I can never remember this, because then it wouldn't matter, because there's only one queen and she mates and then she forms the colony. So I feel like all the offspring are from her anyway, and most of them don't breed regardless. So that necessarily wouldn't matter.
But then, is that going under Richard's selfish gene theory, that they are trying to preserve their gene and so they'll do anything to keep that going? So is that no longer altruistic?
Yes. Yeah, perhaps. I mean, I'm not sure. I think we're getting a bit confused between the bees and the ants, or I am at least. With the ants, it's a very similar system, though, isn't it? That just one breeds.
Seem to be suggesting.
Yeah.
In the article.
So in which case, this is where we get into, is it ever truly a selfless act? Because what most animals are striving to achieve is to have healthy offspring to carry on the genes, right? So regardless of if you're directly the one giving birth or not, as long as your genes are passed down, then in theory, you've achieved that, even if that means your own death in the case of these insects, because their genes are so similar to everyone else's. Perhaps. That is a lot of speculation. I don't know how well we can take that. That might be total bullshit.
I mean, surely ants are not, that's not an active decision.
Yeah.
Like, they're not thinking about the offspring, and I don't know if even their brains have the capacity to do that. I mean, I guess it's a subconscious thought, but it's crazy that it's so rooted in nature that there's some like biological mechanism that is saying if you sacrifice yourself, your genes will get passed on, ergo this is something that we can do.
Yeah, but like obviously the ant is not thinking that, right? The ant's not thinking this is for the good of the colony and my genes. Like, surely that's not even a conscious thought. It's probably not even a conscious thought to be like, I need to emit this hormone now to attract someone to come and kill me. It must just be like a biological process, like you said.
And I would say that ants themselves are also quite a cooperative insect. They always seem to work together to build things and do things. So maybe it's just also ant culture that they, I don't know, learn from other ants that they live with. If there's loads of them together, I don't know. Maybe that's silly, but
Well, I was thinking, if it's not a conscious decision, does that make it more or less altruistic? If that it's just in their nature.
Surely more. But then if you're not aware of what you're doing, doesn't mean anything, does it? Just instinct, I guess.
I can circle back to the definition of altruism if anyone, and even any listeners as well, might be a little bit confused about what it actually is. But it is just, by definition, the selfless concern for the well-being of others without care for one's own interests. So very much unselfishness is the main message of altruism.
Or even to the detriment. I would go further than unselfish.
Oh, really?
To the detriment of yourself, especially in zoology. Like in the meerkat example.
Yeah.
It's a risk that you might die watching out for everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least you're giving up foraging time and eating time, which is bad.
Yeah.
And then, you're going to be hungry. So that's like detriment. You're not going to have as much energy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if there's slightly different ones between humans and animals.
But is there also like the social contract between the meerkats that they know that they will get their own time back if they scout now?
Yeah, so there's this idea of reciprocal altruism, which in the meerkat example is quite easy to explain, because it's like, okay, well, if Antonia's a meerkat and she's watching out for Emma and me, we're happy with that because we know that tomorrow I'll do it and then the day after Emma will do it. So it will be like it's a mutually beneficial arrangement, even if the day that Antonia does it, she gets eaten by a snake and we're grateful because it's not us. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bit of kind of, it's like a social contract that you're not going to have to do it every single day, because that would be too much. You wouldn't be able to survive that long without eating.
So they learnt it from each other? Do we know that they've learnt it from each other, or like it's instinctual?
I think it's instinctual. I think maybe the young ones would see the adults doing it and it would just be like a self-fulfilling prophecy, like that everyone does it. That's like part of being what a meerkat is. But with the first meerkats, I think it must just be instinct. They're not really learning in the sense, like they're learning as a young one to do it, but they've always done it. So then it's like written into their DNA, probably.
Yeah.
So with meerkats and ants, it's obviously the same species, and I feel like animals are definitely more likely to live in a community of the other animals, and then they're more likely to do these acts for their community, their other species. Would we say is more altruistic if it was a different species, so animals helping completely different animals?
Yeah, so this is interesting because, like we said about the fitness, if you're helping your family, then your genes are passed down regardless if you live or die. But if you're a dolphin and you help something like a whale, then there's no genetic link whatsoever. So there's no benefit to you to help that whale, because it can't obviously pass on your genes because they're not the same. And that to me seems like more of a choice. So like there's an example of dolphins guiding like a lost humpback whale out of like a shallow bay or like a harbour or something. And that is selfless because there's an energetic cost of the dolphins, swimming around more or trying to get the whale's attention or doing whatever and then leading it out of the bay. Whereas with the meerkats, you're getting that benefit back. They're not getting that benefit back. They've like given up foraging time or resting time or sleeping time or whatever to help the whale.
And not to like, what's the word when you impose human features?
Oh, anthropomorphize.
Yeah, not to anthropomorphize the dolphins, but why did they do that? What were they thinking when they saw the whale?
and they're super, super clever. And I think they would have some sort of capability of realizing this
They
whale is in
realised
trouble.
it was stuck.
Yeah, I think so. Or like that it was lost or in distress at least. There is some potential evidence that dolphins and whales might be able to communicate, like a little bit at least. So maybe that's in there as well. Maybe the whales being like, guys, can you help? I think I've got myself in a bit of a situation.
Or maybe they understood distress. Like,
yeah,
our pets can kind of understand when we're distressed
exactly.
and choose to ignore us.
Yeah, we all have cats in the podcast. I think a dog perhaps is more loving, but yeah, I think this is a real good example because there's not a reward for the dolphins. Like, it doesn't matter necessarily to them if the whale lives or dies. So yeah, I think that's quite an interesting one.
So, would we call that true altruism?
I'm going yes. I'm putting.
If there is such a thing?
I'm putting the dolphins as pretty selfless.
Wow.
I guess they're not at risk of, death, though. Like, let's say there was something that was going to attack the dolphins at the time. Would they run away? Would they still make the detour to save the whale?
Oh,
That's the true test of altruism, probably. Because, I mean, they're just, they're going to have to swim away anyway. So could it be that they just happen to go that direction anyway?
Perhaps. I mean, you can't know for certain
exactly.
what's going through their mind, but yeah, it's like the you're like someone rescuing someone while under fire in the army. Are you doing it because you could get shot, you could just run and save yourself, but if you rescue your injured fellow soldier, then is that altruistic?
I think with like humans, there's a kind of almost like a moral code, though, isn't there? And maybe that kind of, if you don't do it, there's more negative social impact. So are there cases where you're doing it because you don't want to experience that?
Well, it's also like, could you live with the guilt, right? Like, if you're rescuing your fellow wounded soldier, is it worth it to you to rescue them knowing you did everything you could to help them and you both die? Or is it a situation so grave that you know that if you wait for them or try and rescue them, you're both going to die anyway? Or should you try and save yourself? It's yeah, that is a pretty moral quandary. Or could you live with yourself after, if you left them and they died and you lived, and you've got that on your conscience for the rest of your life? Or if you saved them and then you feel really good about it, is that actually selfless?
See, that did make me think about like, because I initially thought of humans and then we were talking about animals, and I feel like we've almost gone up the evolutionary tree, especially in terms of intelligence. Like, we can all appreciate dolphins are more intelligent than ants. And so I tried to have a look at another intelligent animals who, to reference another episode, we know can use tools, which is our favorite chimpanzee.
He's back.
They're always back. And see if there was any studies on them, because I also feel like the study of chimpanzee behavior is definitely a lot more documented than the study of ant behavior. I mean, I don't have any facts or figures to reference that. I'm just going off vibes. Just pure vibes. And there was actually a study that was done on chimpanzees. Well, there was first of all like an initial study where they basically had two chimpanzees, and they could make a choice to reward themselves, or they could make a choice to reward another chimpanzee. And this initial study was like almost all of the time the chimpanzee chose to reward themselves, which I think is actually also a very human act. If you could choose to give £5 to somebody else or yourself, I don't know many people who would always select the other person. So I think, and then somebody kind of critiqued that study and was like, well, you're not giving them the chance to be altruistic here, which I think you are, but I can see that point. Even humans are very altruistic creatures, and I think, we would not make that decision most likely. And so they made another study in response to that, where the chimpanzee could choose to either reward itself or reward itself and another chimpanzee as well. And they
Okay.
found that it was 60% of the time they chose to reward both, which is slightly, like, statistically checks out as being significant. It's not just random 50-50, you know, especially with the tests they did afterwards. Which, would we call that altruism? Because it's not necessarily their own detriment, but they are making a choice to kind of benefit the other chimpanzee. And I do feel like as humans, we would also make that decision. So I feel like it's kind of matching a lot with the human psyche in my mind, which I thought was interesting because they're clearly thinking about things in a similar way that we would, but obviously not entirely.
Yeah, it does show some sort of like processing power, doesn't it? Of being like, if I do this, this will happen. If I do this, I can give half to another. Were they giving like part of their reward to another chimp, or were they getting 2 rewards and giving, you know, like 2 apples, give one to another, or are they giving half an apple to another chimp?
It was like the same thing. It was like, I think it was fruit wrapped in paper, and they also made sure the chimpanzees themselves could communicate. Like they weren't exactly in the same place, but there wasn't like a glass thing disconnecting them or something like that. So they, I think they also could see that the other chimpanzee was being rewarded, and maybe that, you know, made them feel good or something like that. Like I think it was, the method was try and encourage communication between them and see if that affected the study as well.
Aww.
It's cute.
So they could kind of understand that giving the other chimp was not going to harm them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's almost like they weren't greedy either, because they could they have had both rewards?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, eaten both.
I think they would
That's what I
have
was thinking.
chosen that. Though.
Yeah, if I give you, you know, you've done the study, I give you 2 apples. Are you giving 1 apple to
Yeah.
Antonia, or are you eating both apples to yourself? That's what I want to.
Yeah.
I don't know what the setup was entirely, but I think that's funny. But I feel like it's nice that it was a bit, you know, at least most of the time, slightly higher than half they chose to help their other chimp. But if you're still getting a reward, it's not that selfless.
But it's still not 50-50. So I think what's interesting about it is they are aware that it's going to have a positive impact on another chimp. And I think they obviously aren't as advanced for us as us to be. I feel like humans would always 100% of the choice make that decision because they know, like, or even if some people just wanted to be mean, then maybe they wouldn't. But that's psychology you can't even account for, really.
I wonder also if they did it like if the chimp knew the other chimp, like if it was related, or if it was like, you know, if all the girls gave the reward to all the other girls, but the boys just ate the reward themselves. I don't know. That would also intrigue me, the like related relationships between the chimps.
Or if they were opposite genders, they might have had an ulterior motive.
Yeah, try and woo you with an apple.
That's a good point, actually. They didn't really comment too much on. I think they just said that they weren't strangers.
I guess they probably were just living at a facility, weren't they? They were just a group of chimps.
So they weren't, they knew of each other, probably, just from proximity.
Yeah. Maybe a few were related, but maybe not all.
Interesting.
Interesting. So interesting.
What I did find, though, if you're really altruistic as a human, you might actually be slightly biologically different.
Oh, in what way?
So there was a study where they scanned people's brains and found that they have a slight neuropathway that put them into wanting to be more altruistic.
That's nice.
There was something that they noticed in people who considered themselves extra altruistic. So I will caveat, it was quite a small study of about 20 people in the extra altruist and the normal camp.
So the people that were extra altruist, they'd like self-describe themselves as being like very giving or generous or whatever.
I will have to double check a second, but I kind of went, that's a very small sample size. That doesn't really expand to the whole population.
Yeah, I guess it's whether you then, if in that study they scanned the brains, they only found it in, the 10 people that said they were altruistic and not in the other people, would they then find it if they did 100 people or 1,000 people? Would it show up in people who wouldn't describe themselves as that? Or is it just like chance that you might have this connection in your brain or not? That's what I would want to know. If anyone wants to do that study.
I think I'd also want to know if it was nature versus nurture. Like, was there any evidence in their relatives that would they describe themselves as altruistic? Would they also express this in their brain? Or I guess that's also would be nurture as well, wouldn't it? Because that's the family. But
yeah, but
I
also
think that's
I suppose
really interesting.
if you had a very caring upbringing, maybe you were, brought up to be very caring and to think of other people and stuff. Whereas if you didn't, perhaps it wouldn't be your first thought to like help someone in that way.
Right, so the way that they selected people there were 19 altruistic kidney donors.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's definitely altruistic. Anyone who describes themselves as altruistic and doing that,
that's a fair cop. I was thinking they were giving money at Christmas or something.
Yeah, they just looked for 20 healthy volunteers who were willing to participate in a study. But what I think was the neural pathway that they were spotting was whether they detected fear in other people's faces and almost reacting to that more than other people.
Oh, okay. So what the people that were altruistic saw less fear because they're like very open-minded and generous and kind, or they saw more fear?
As in they were responding to other people's fear.
Oh, I see. Oh, pictures of people looking scared sort of thing.
Yes. Or like fearful expressions.
Right. Oh.
So I wonder if that just means they're more empathetic.
Well, I guess that's probably like in line, isn't it? If you're going to give up a kidney, then probably you are quite empathetic in the first place. Especially to someone you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't have a sort of moral obligation to do that.
And you also don't have the reward of saving, a family member you might care a lot about.
Yeah, because I think potentially you wouldn't even necessarily know who your kidney was going to, would you?
Mm-hmm.
If you gave it to somebody you didn't, a stranger.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily ever learn who it went to. Which is why the Jesse Eisenberg thing is weird.
Mm-hmm. I think it's cool. I think it's really interesting that he did actually say it at like an interview platform as well.
Yeah, but did he just do that to get kudos?
Sure. But I also think that these kind of things really do influence the people that hear it. Like, I truly think some people would just be like, I actually don't care about this other kidney. And then would be like, I actually might just do it. And although I actually looked into it, there is actually a study that found it is actually detrimental for you to donate one of your kidneys.
Yeah.
There was, like, some people did actually end up having some form of kidney failure. Not like a large percentage of people, and it could have happened to them anyway, for sure. Like, there's no way to know that. But I think from like this small paper I found, it looked at like 20 to 30 years after a donation on the people that had donated and what their health stats were like then. But the evidence suggests it's slightly more detrimental, but I think that also depends on your genetic predisposition anyways. So
is it statistically significant, or is the sample size too small for us to really know? Because there's so many factors that could happen in 20 to 30 years.
I mean, I don't remember. I don't know how big the sample size was.
I think it's fair to say if you give up your own kidney and you're supposed to have two and you've only got one, your health is going to be a bit worse. I think that's pretty. But you
only need one.
You only need one, but are you?
You only need one.
Are you thriving with one? I don't know.
It's kind of convenient that we have got two then.
Yeah.
Like, were we genetically built to have two just to give spare? Like, we wouldn't have evolved knowing that we would do transplants,
no,
surely.
Definitely not. But then, like, what possessed him to do it? You said he got hooked on, like, giving blood donations and he felt quite good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's his
and then
like,
he was like, what's more?
yeah, maybe it is that sort of savior complex.
It's the evolution, yeah. But I really can see it. Like I started to donate blood, I think like 5 years ago or something like that, and I actually like, I love it. Like when he said the blood donor bug, like I really felt that, because you actually do feel amazing when you do it, because I mean, but there really is no detriment to you apart from your time, to be honest. Like, and I think that time is worth it. But for me, like the whole experience of it is just great. Like everyone's so nice. They give you the biscuits and the drink afterwards. Like I'm just giving away something that I have, too much of. And I did actually look into it, and it actually is also beneficial for you to donate blood, because it helps, like, I don't know,
You get some new blood going.
something with your blood. Yeah, like it.
So are you saying it is altruistic or not altruistic?
Well, by the sounds of it, it's not altruistic. Emma's enjoying it too much.
I'm enjoying it. But I think, the first time I did it, I was very tired the next day, and I was like, no, I'm really like, ugh. But then after that, I was completely fine. So I think it's I think I would do it. I don't know. I'm trying to think, if something worse happened to me, would I still do it? Because I do think that the positive feeling you get is really great. And so I can see, if you're like, I love that feeling. Imagine if I donated a kidney.
Yeah, the dopamine hit from that has got to be huge.
Yeah. But then I guess it goes back to, is that a selfless act because you're obviously very happy about that? I think as long as you're helping people, kind of, who cares if it's selfish or selfless, as long as, you're not actually introducing harm into the world. But the Jesse Eisenberg one, I also think, like, if he down the line has any health problems, he's obviously financially in a position where he's going to be fine. Like, there's not a real big risk for him to do that. And so,
but that's the thing.
Maybe that's also,
he's rich, right? He could have just donated money to like a kidney charity or a a hospital or whatever.
Yeah.
But he went.
But you can't buy a kidney. Like, you can't.
It's true. Well, not officially.
A kidney charity.
Well,
what do they do though? Like, they're not buying kidneys.
No,
with the
true.
money.
But they're probably
I don't know what they're doing with the money. But
support people,
like
research or whatever. I don't know.
Impact wise, yeah. He probably made a bigger impact through donating his kidney than donating money.
I don't know if he did. Because he saved one person, right? Potentially. We don't necessarily know if that person, could have rejected it. Let's say he saved one person with his kidney. If he donated $1 million to a kidney research charity, he could have funded research that, prevented kidney disease taking the kidney in the first place. So potentially could have saved millions.
Perhaps. I guess it's active versus passive. But what is a life worth? Maybe a life worth more than $1 million.
Maybe. Maybe
the kidney's worth.
Maybe he did both. We don't know. He didn't say.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
I'm still curious. Is there actually dopamine coming from this, or is it a sort of, I can sleep well knowing that I've done something good? Is it a chemical thing, or is it a psychological thing?
Well, maybe it's both. It's probably at least.
Could you talk yourself into thinking you did a good thing?
Well, I think you did do a good thing, regardless of your motivations. If you gave someone a kidney, that's a pretty good thing to do, I should think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. It does make me think back to that Friends episode where Phoebe says to Joey, there is no such thing as a selfless act.
Yeah.
And he's determined to prove her wrong. And so he does all these things. He's like giving away all his time, donating all this money. And then he's like, oh, I feel so great. I just did this. And she's like, exactly, like, yeah, you feel great.
You feel great.
Which is still nice. I mean, there's nothing we can do to stop that, It would be a bad vibe if we did something good and we felt bad about it.
I can't remember what in the end he donates to a charity that he doesn't like or something, doesn't he? And he's like, I feel bad because now I'm down $200 and I hate whatever company it was that he donated to. So that's, I don't know if anyone actually hates charities in real life, but perhaps they do, to get a truly selfish act. It's really a tricky one. I think it's very hard to say necessarily if anything's truly altruism or if it's just a byproduct of sort of nature nurture. Or if you feel good about it at the end, even if it's bad for you. Sort of.
It's almost Yeah, this almost goes to philosophy. Does the reason why matter if you get the good outcome? Like kind of what you were saying earlier, Ellie.
Yeah. Because I think also the animals don't necessarily know, right? We've invented all these terms. They haven't read the textbooks. I say this all the time. Like, they don't know that they're doing this because of X, Y, and Z. They're just doing it because that's what meerkats do. So, yeah, it's really interesting.
I don't know how animals' brains work, because I don't know if they do something if they feel really good about it. Because then obviously they would carry on doing things that they would feel good about. Whereas humans, we definitely have that. And Antonio, you mentioned like social impact as well. Like, do animals experience the shame that I guess humans would experience in the same way? So I feel like animals doing something altruistic is really probably more impressive than a human donating a kidney, because just brain-wise, we kind of reap all the rewards and we can understand entirely what we've done and why we've done it. Whereas animals, I feel like it literally is just no thoughts, just doing it.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think it's, yeah, a human, you've got so much more capacity to be like,
Yeah.
this is good because of why. You've got society pressure, you've got pressure of people around you, you've got knowledge of what you're doing. But the animals is like, I need to do this for survival. So like the motivations are very different.
Yeah. And maybe looking into the reward system of animals is another topic for another episode.
Woohoo.
So just to round off what we sort of thought about was it is kind of hard to say if there are acts of true altruism, because if we're feeling better about it, yeah, maybe it isn't truly altruistic. But then again, if you're keeping your colony alive with your genes in the colony, is that altruistic or is that also selfish? But you don't know you're doing it, so it's just in your nature. And maybe, it's just all hormones and signals, and I'll give the audience a signal now to do something altruistic by giving us maybe some topics for discussion or some donation to help support our podcast. We do this voluntarily, and hosting fees come out of our pocket. So if you feel like looking into that, we have a Ko-fi or Ko-fi, ko-fi.com. So yeah, see you in another episode. Bye.
Bye.
The views expressed in this podcast belong entirely to the person that said them. They do not represent any industry or organisation. If you enjoyed listening to these views, it would really help us out if you could rate us, leave a review and tell a friend. This podcast was sponsored by no one, but if you're interested in funding us to continue to have frank discussions about science and engineering, please get in touch.